Hey guys, it's Dave here from Dave Trout Fitness. So what I want to share with you today is my absolute favorite hip opener. It's very good for movement prep, getting you ready for squats and lunging, but also just your hip health in general. And it's called the Core 4. So when we think about how our body works, we have all these fascial lines that can get all tight and bunched up. And when they are like that, they don't glide properly, and then they can cause movement dysfunction, but also lead to injury and other issues. So if you want to, one, perform better, but feel better, you want to make sure we're dealing with these things. So we're going to start with the Core 4. And what we do in this movement sequence is we start in what we call a 90-90 position. So 90-90 position just means we're at 90 degrees in one leg and 90 degrees in the other. And then this is our starting point. So from here, we're gonna do an exercise called Windshield Wiper. So all you do here is you kind of pivot around the feet and just let the knee drop to the ground. And that's the important thing to think about, is that you want the knee to drop naturally. You don't want to feel like you're forcing it and coming off those seat bones, because once you're doing that, you're not actually getting the benefit of the stretch anymore. So just letting it drop naturally and just paying attention to each side and what it feels like, and where those tissues feel a little bit more restrictive, because then we can approach them differently later. So just letting those knees drop, and you can do this 20 times, 30 times. It doesn't really matter as long as it feels good and you're getting some relief from it. So once we've done that a number of times, we're gonna choose one leg at a time and just go back to this, once again, the 90-90 position. So from here to start, I really wanna make sure that I'm kind of square in my hips. A lot of times people do this one, there's a lot of tension in the back hip, so they try to avoid it. But when we avoid that tension, we're avoiding getting that muscle release and getting that benefit. So from here, I like to put one hand on one side of the foot, one hand beside my knee, and just kind of square my body weight. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create these waves by leading with my chin and scooping, and then leading with my upper back on the way up. And you can do this 10 times. There's not really a wrong amount of reps, as long as it feels good. And as long as you're elongating through the body, trying to deal with all those fascial nets that we're talking about. And when how you think about fascia is a little bit different than how we think about muscles. Fascia likes to be dealt with in these kind of waves like this, because when you think about fascia, it's a whole system of tissue, opposed to when we think about each individual muscle. It's what helps all those muscles kind of coordinate together and work better together. So once we feel like we've loosened up the hip enough, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little scan. So the entire time we're doing these stretches, we're also kind of analyzing our own body and assessing ourselves. So what I want you to do now is I want you to keep that same position with the hands, but you're gonna go down and then you're just gonna scan from side to side, taking note of where do I feel the tension. Maybe I'm not gonna feel it so much on one side, but I'll really feel it on the other side, which means this is where I wanna spend most of my time and my attention. So once we find and scan and find those areas that are a little tighter, we're gonna do another set of waves, but these are gonna be a little smaller waves, just kind of dealing with that really tense area. You're just trying to loosen up a little extra. So you might do this 10 times or so. You can do it more if you like, as long as you're feeling good once again. And once we do that, we're gonna come up. So the next part of the movement, we're gonna get a little bit of activation in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that back leg, we're gonna drive it, the knee, into the ground for 5 seconds, but as hard as you can, all right? So this back knee, drive it in the ground for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From there, what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise the back foot off the ground for 5 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You might find by now you're cramping in the hip here, which is completely normal. You might need to push pause on the video just while that recuperates. And you might find you also have a hard time getting the leg off the ground. That just means you have bad internal rotation, which means this is just gonna be beneficial for you anyway. So just try your best and do whatever you can. From there, I wanna raise my whole leg up for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. Before putting it down, bring it forward, and you're gonna bring it back. All right. So from here, what I'm gonna do is wherever my front leg is, I'm just gonna walk it back to my back knee. To get a little bit more hip flexor activation now, I'm gonna drive this back knee into my foot for 5 seconds as hard as I can. So when you're ready, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From there, wherever your hand is, I want you to go down on your elbow. And now this is when we're gonna get into that whole fascial net in the side here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do these big circles with our arms. Reaching, 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 reaching as far back as you can, reaching all the way up, reaching through, constantly reaching. Once again, you can do these as long as they feel good. And you're just every time trying to get further back and reaching further until you feel all those tissues start to loosen up. And you might feel some discomfort in the shoulder here if you have like any kind of shoulder impingement. If so, just bring it back a little bit. Maybe don't go quite as much into it. But if you can, reach, 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 reach. All right, so once you've done a number of those, what we're gonna do is we're gonna advance it a little bit. So your foot is in your knee, you're gonna walk it back 4 or 5 steps. From there, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna drive the knee into the foot for that activation for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what I like to do here to get a little deep from the stretch, wherever my hand is here, I'm gonna place my other hand and walk back further. Back down on the elbow, and now I'm gonna get a nice deeper stretch in the fascia. Reaching, reaching still. Pretend like you're doing the biggest guitar swing of your life. And just keep reaching, and you might feel all that tissue just loosen up. All right. So once you've done that sequence, you're gonna repeat it on the other side. Like I said, if you're tighter on one side than the other, that's okay. Just spend more time on the tight side. But what we do now is we're just gonna kind of assess our movement and just see how it feels. So I'll go into my squat, and you might even notice this leg is a little bit more open than this one at the moment. And it feels a little less restrictive because I kind of spent a little time loosening it up. So play around with that, and that's just a good technique to warm up the hips. There's other things you can add to it or you can take it away, but just any of those individual movements would be good by themselves. So now that you're kind of loosened up, you can kind of see how your squat feels and how it looks and see what kind of improvements you can make. From there, if you have any questions about that, comment below. If there's another kind of sequence or another area in which you want to work on other than hips, leave a comment below and I'll try to make another video off that. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe if you can, and stay fit and take care, guys. We'll be back soon.